All right, thank you. I can't really see, but show of hands, how many folks are in OCI? Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Okay, I just need to make sure how many acronyms I use and whatnot, so thank you. So I've been at Oracle for 4 years, 3-ish, kind of doing the FinOps activity, advising Oracle customers. I met Janel maybe 9 months ago. They started their FinOps journey on OCI. My organization, provides no-cost advisory services for all things IT financial management, IT asset management, and FinOps. So we cover kind of the whole Oracle stack, optimizing investment at Oracle, licensing, hardware, SaaS, and cloud. So I just want to thank Janel for joining me today here, and I'll kick it over to her to start us off. Thanks.
Great, well, thank you. I'm Janel Jensen. I have been at Paramount for 2.5 years, but I started working with Paramount in mid-2020, so right in the middle of the pandemic. First and foremost, I want to thank Cody for his partnership over the last several months and giving our team the insights and visibility into OCI so we continue effectively supporting our teams across Paramount. So thank you, Cody, very much for that. Before we dive in, I do want to get a sense of how your FinOps teams are structured. So by show of hands, and if I can see you, who leverages a centralized FinOps team? Great, great. Who leverages a decentralized FinOps team? Hub and spoke? And does anybody utilize a third party to manage their FinOps practice? Okay, cool, cool. One of the things I have found through conversations with other FinOps practitioners is no two FinOps practices are set up exactly the same. At each organization, depending on the complexity of your cloud environment, the maturity of your FinOps practice, as well as the autonomy your engineers need to have, there's going to be differences in how your FinOps team is structured. At Paramount, we leverage a centralized FinOps team. And so this represents what that FinOps team looks like. So even though technically we report up into the Paramount Tech org, we support all brands across Paramount, across all cloud providers. So there's a little dotted line to each of the brands and each of the teams where we support the teams. And so what I mean by that and how we manage our central FinOps team is we engage with each of the brands or teams on a regular basis. A lot of cases we're meeting with them monthly and oftentimes more often than monthly for multiple reasons, right? If you look at those arrows, the arrows go both ways. We are sharing information with the teams, spend and usage, where it's trending, where it's going. We are discussing optimization opportunities, but we're also receiving information back from the teams on what their strategic changes in the coming months might look like, if they're going to be doing family refreshes in their environment so we can update our committed use strategies. The conversation goes both ways, and we're able to engage with all the teams across Paramount to have a really good understanding of what the cloud spend is doing, where it's been, as well as where it's going. Based off of how we have built our FinOps practice within the organization, it has evolved over time and most recently has really become more of an executive intelligence gathering function. And how we do that, first and foremost, is through visibility. And by the right visibility, ensuring we have a single source of truth for the organization across the clouds, we are able to create confidence in the data that we provide. Not just confidence, but trust. We are trusted partners across the organization, whether it's with the business groups or the executive team. And so how we do that is we are aligning engineers who drive usage, finance, who owns the financial strategy, and executives who make the investment decisions. This works very well when everybody's operating from the same cost structure, the same cost allocation. So what we do is we consolidate the multi-cloud historical trends. We're able to clearly separate structural growth from event-driven spikes or seasonal usage Speaking of event-driven spikes, to give you an example of what I mean, who watches UFCs on Paramount Plus? Nice, great, great. As you can imagine, those are event-driven spikes. And we're super excited to have that within Paramount Plus now, and it's been a lot of fun. Next question I have, so talking about, well, here, I'll go ahead and move on real quick. Last year, if some of you were following along in the news, there was a merger between Skydance and Paramount. And so throughout that merger process and analyzing the cloud environments for both companies, we were often asked, and still are asked on a regular basis, where's our cloud spend going and how fast is it growing across platforms? This is where having that single source of truth is very important. Let me ask you real quick, who utilizes a FinOps tool, whether internally developed or externally, to be your single source of truth? Great, great. Who still receives calls from engineers because that single source of truth does not match your tool when they're looking data up in the console? I still get those calls all the time. We even had a team recently build I wasn't going to share this, but I'll share it anyways. They built an AI agent around the cloud spend data, and they didn't properly train it, so it wasn't presenting the correct cost assumptions or costs for the resources. So it's very important that you have that single source of truth, because you can interpret the data so many different ways, and you're going to get the wrong story when you pass it up to your executive teams. So how do we ensure the executives have the insights they need? First and foremost, we're going to align on growth projections and identify growth patterns. We engage very closely and very frequently across the finance teams. They work as well with the engineers to understand what those growth projections are going to be. So as we obtained that UFC contract, we updated our cloud consumption models with those new projections, and now that we have actual usage, we update them again, and we align with the finance teams. We are also working with our engineers to identify our long-term plans and strategies. It's important for our executive team to have that visibility into what the teams are planning to do and make sure it aligns with their business strategy, as well as the cost allocation model that's enabled across the platforms. So by utilizing one normalized multi-cloud view, one shared cost model, and one version of the truth, we are able to separate real growth from event-driven or seasonal spikes.
All right, so what does that mean for the hyperscaler? I work at Oracle, so I'm going to talk about a little bit duties and responsibilities of the hyperscaler to support Paramount. So visibility, there's confidence, trust, the words were thrown out. So what they need is kind of a consolidated view of their spend and differentiate growth versus spikes. So on the left there, it's just talking about what capabilities does a hyperscaler need to have to support customers. So it's really just trusted cost and usage data is kind of the most important part, and some other nice to haves, kind of anomaly detection and proper forecasting tools. And then kind of coupled with the advisory role that I'm in, it kind of helps operationalize it. We work with a lot of customers, so we see kind of what people are doing that is working well, maybe some gaps from other customers. So we try to bring kind of the best practices when we talk about all of our services, but on this slide specifically, reporting best practices, tagging best practices. And then in terms of capabilities, the big one is just cost and usage reports, and kind of the native tool for analyzing cost is the cost analysis. So that's it.
Okay, so the next part of our FinOps practice is we provide insights that drive action. And one of the things we want to be very careful of as we're working with the teams to ensure that the savings that we're recommending to the teams do not compromise creative velocity. The most important part of ensuring that we are driving action is that first bullet point that you see up on the screen: regular engagement with engineering and finance teams. We have been working with these teams for years, and we have such a trusted process, a continuous feedback loop where we're working with the teams. where they really trust the data we're presenting to them. We can present opportunities to them and help them prioritize along with their day-to-day duties so they're not compromising that creative velocity. We're able to help them identify those material optimization levers. What are those highest savings opportunities with the lowest level of effort? There are some savings opportunities that take a lot more time because there's a lot of testing involved, and so we're able to help identify those and prioritize those as well. Keeping in mind, in some teams, they may have vendor limitations as well. So through the constant conversation and that feedback loop, we're able to help identify what can be actioned, what is going to have to be delayed for one reason or another, and then circle back to it and keep it on their radar. As mentioned, we had a merger, Skydance and Paramount. As new executives come on board, one of the questions we're asked most often by these new executives as they're receiving those cloud reporting for their teams is they want to understand what are the existing savings opportunities for that team. And because we're regularly engaging with those teams already, we're able to provide them what's next on the list. What do they need to focus on? Or, hey, help them prioritize this one because there's some big savings associated to it. But because we are regularly engaged with the teams, we're also providing the executives insight into what's already been actioned. We want to make sure those teams receive credit for the hard work they have done because it really creates a lot of value for the organization and momentum when they do receive that recognition for the work they've done. One of the things we do in terms of savings opportunities when we meet with the teams on a regular basis is when we present to them on our next, let's say, monthly cloud review, we can review visualizations that show that cost impact of the actions they have taken. And when they can see that spend come down, and when their executive is on the call and they receive those kudos and the leader's given them great feedback on the call as well, that creates even more momentum. They want to seek out more savings opportunities. I know as a mother, we're not supposed to have favorite children. I probably shouldn't have favorite teams either. I love working with the Pluto team. They are rock stars. They are awesome to engage with and great partners in the cloud. They like to play the game of let's optimize a whole bunch of stuff and see if Janel finds it all. It's really a lot of fun. So we don't treat optimization as a one-time activity. We really treat optimization as a portfolio, and we're continuously engaging with the teams to understand what those opportunities are, and as well as receiving feedback from them. So things like our committed use discounts, we're leveraging that economy of scale, really maximize those savings for them as well, because we understand where we can make additional changes for additional savings.
All right, so back to the hyperscaler responsibilities. So what they need is, be able to identify the levers for optimization and kind of prioritize them. So on the hyperscaler side, we kind of have an engine that surfaces those, recommendations across different resource types, and then kind of the advisory role is like a secondary way to kind of operationalize that engine and then collect any type of metrics, that Paramount needs to take that and validate that with their team. So I guess capabilities, CloudAdvisor is our recommendation engine. Being able to schedule resources, tiering, being able to monitor resource types to identify, the actual resource metrics that you need to be able to say, hey, let's right size this or whatnot. Some other kind of services on the advisory side that we do have that kind of goes above and beyond, what's native. We have like this health check idea where we take kind of metadata from multiple environments and we can kind of do like tag health check, kind of looking at tag coverage, tag accuracy, and then kind of step into additional resource types, that go above and beyond, CloudAdvisor. And then we just came out with kind of this maturity assessment, which everyone kind of understands the, reason of why the maturity assessment exists, but we have like an OCI specific one that takes into account, all the OCI native capabilities and, make sure Paramount is aware of it and they're utilizing it in their kind of FinOps practice.
Okay. Once being aligned as a single enterprise, that allows us to leverage our scale for financial advantage. And so how do we do this? We do this by centralizing our commitment strategy, ensuring it's tied to forecasts and our allocation model. We're ensuring commitments are fully utilized, compliant, and strategically negotiated. Instead of fragmented decisions being made across the business, everything is centralized. This allows us to increase utilization, reduce costs, align spend with strategy, as well as lower our unit economics through the economies of scale. Okay, so this is where FinOps becomes strategic, especially after the merger was completed, and if you're reading the news, it sounds like there may be one upcoming as well. Because we are already engaged with our teams on a regular basis, when the executive teams ask how we can align all the teams across Paramount, across all the clouds for contract negotiations, this is where we're able to leverage that intelligence gathering that we have been doing for years. So as the FinOps practitioners are working with each of the various teams, we're working with product, we're working with engineering, we're working with finance. Not only do we understand where their spend is going, but we understand it with a lot of detail the service mix that they're currently utilizing, where they're looking to make changes, so we can incorporate all of that into our cloud consumption models that includes all clouds across all teams. And then we engage with our leadership and our procurement team to identify those additional opportunities or commercials we should be requesting to have within our contracts and have them negotiated. Another area, because we manage our optimization as a portfolio, is we're able to ensure that we're accounting for any pending optimizations in our consumption modeling. Last thing we want to do is overcommit with our cloud providers, because that puts our company at risk of having to pay that difference if we underspend our commitment. But you also don't want to undercommit with your cloud providers, because then you're leaving discounts on the table and spending more than you have to.
All right, back to the hyperscaler. So what they need is kind of a centralized location so they can see kind of their commitment across environments, subscriptions, and make sure they're fully utilized. So again, it comes down to accurate cost usage information, and then we do have kind of a centralized location so you can see kind of, here's all my commitment line items or subscriptions or environments. This is kind of a centralized location where you could see your burn rate and kind of forecast that to make sure you're matching your commitment. And then for the folks that are not familiar with OCI, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, our commitment model is flexible. It's universal credits. You pay for universal credits, and then you could use those credits for any cloud service. So it's a little less complex than other hyperscalers. And then on the advisory side, quarterly kind of consumption, trend analysis to help kind of gain that confidence that they're on track for their commitment.
Right. Cloud spend is definitely a measurable driver of business value. The last set of slides I was looking at, one of the things we were looking at was the consumption models to support contract negotiations. We don't build just one model. A lot of times the leadership wants to do some scenario planning. What if we go with option A, B, or C? What if we ask for these commercials in this contract? What are the incremental savings? They're looking at all the different options that are available to us to understand what is the best strategy for Paramount and to make sure that the ROI is visible to them and they're making the right financial sound decision. This provides support for greenlighting decisions, platform prioritization, as well as investment trade-offs. So I've been fortunate to be involved with and see a lot of different cloud contracts. So what I am showing on this slide isn't necessarily specific to Paramount. These are some different strategies I've seen for contract negotiations. I just thought I would share with the teams. But essentially, what we're doing is we want to give the executives a clear framework to evaluate trade-offs, not just chase the lowest cost. Instead of negotiating based off of estimates, we use forecasts, allocation data, and unit economics This allows us to balance cost, flexibility, risk, and align contracts directly to business needs. Demand-driven contract is our foundation. We don't start with the contracts. We start the contract structuring by analyzing business demand signals, and forecast models for cloud resources and workloads. Understanding product mix, which is so important when you're having these conversations for your negotiations, as well as unit economics that define what we should commit to. You want flexibility in your cloud contracts. Enable adaptability with multi-cloud options, service portability, and marketplace inclusion to support innovation and growth. Efficiency through scale. Align commitment levels with baseline demand and negotiate enterprise volume pricing to lower unit costs and increase transparency. Risk management strategies. This is a key, right? I mean, a lot of these cloud contracts, for a lot of the contracts I have seen, are multi-years and a lot of money we're committing to. So you want to have some risk mitigation strategies in there. Some recommendations or things to consider are contract terms like carry forward, shortfall protection, and ramp schedules to minimize financial risk and overcommitment.
All right, back to hyperscaler here. So in terms of hyperscaler responsibilities kind of in the business value sector, it comes back down to kind of the first one, which is visibility, trusted cost inputs for any kind of business value metric that Paramount wants to do. Unfortunately, I don't have insight into their business metrics, but I can help kind of define and kind of map those two cost inputs in terms of capabilities, again, trusted, confidence and cost and usage data, and ability to tag, so they can kind of split that by LOB, your application on the business kind of metric. Yeah.
Great. Okay, so this is essentially the system we have built. And thanks to Cody and his team, we are able to now effectively layer in Oracle into our processes to ensure our businesses and our executives have the right visibility into our Oracle environments. Visibility creates insights. Insights drive action. Action enables scale. And scale delivers business value. When this is a continuous loop and aligned across engineering, finance, business, and leadership, FinOps becomes more than a function. It becomes a big part of the business decision making. Thank you.
All right, so we have time for Q&A. Quick training for the audience. Holding the box does not make you louder. Talking into the box makes you louder. All right, first question.
Thank you. Hi, I have a question around the forecasting part. That's a big challenge in a big company for people to give you insightful forecasts. What do you think was sort of maybe your winning strategy in maturing that process and maybe where it's at?
That's a great question. I would say it's been developed over years. First was building trust and a partnership with the teams that we're working with, so with those finance teams, and helping them understand their bills and just being there as, hey, how can we benefit you? How can we partner with you? So then when it's time and we need to obtain that information from the finance teams, we already have that working relationship and they're happy to share and collaborate on their projections.
Hello. With you saying, you went through recent acquisition, merger, with all these things, you have a lot of data, different instances, consolidating, and kind of, it creates, I don't know, sometimes maybe a little chaos, I would say, and getting all that back together, I wonder how you guys did that, and kind of the scale of the team it took to do that, if that's a reasonable question.
Yeah, I will. So the scale of our FinOps practice, we are lean and mean too. And that's supporting the entire Paramount team. Our executives do recognize we are smaller than we should be because there's a lot more we should be doing on top of what we're already doing. But I'll tell you what, it goes back to our relationship with the team. So as there has been that chaos or that feeling of uncertainty, right? Anytime there's a merger, anytime there's an acquisition, there's an underlying uneasiness among employees. And because we position ourselves as a trusted partner and work with them, I think that helps provide some ease. Hey, we're here to benefit you. We know things are crazy right now. What do you need? How can we support you? And that seems to go a long way as things get ironed out.
Hi, Janel.
Hello.
Great presentation.
I am so happy to see you here.
So happy to see you too. And just following up on this, and I know it's very challenging, you shared a slide where you brought up like a broader framework for commitments and everything. Getting back to Paramount, how you are dealing with this process of merger, the currently one that you guys are going through and the potentially next one, how you are bring back to this framework, how you're using these contract flexibilities that you share for, like, I'm only assuming that a merger this size change a lot of the baseline that you have. So how you are dealing with all this strategy put in place in your practice?
That's a great question. That's a great question because a lot of the teams we are and have been engaging with over the years are from Paramount. So once we started, or once the merger was complete with Skydance, we started engaging with the Skydance teams as well because we needed to start incorporating them into the consumption models. So working with their leadership to understand where their cloud spend has been. If we incorporate them in and leverage our scale to benefit them as well, what type of benefits will they see from it also? Did that answer your question?
Hello, I'm Talia from Indeed. I am curious with the mergers and integrations you're going through, do you require companies that come in and join to adopt your standard FinOps practices as you're the largest scale provider? Or do you tune and change your models, whether it's like a unit economic or cost allocation, or even your committed discount strategy to learn from them? Like, how do you approach that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I've actually been thinking about that quite a bit as we've been following WBD in the news. It'll be interesting, and I'm really excited to meet the FinOps team at WBD as an example and really learn from them. I think we have an opportunity because, again, like we discussed at the beginning of this presentation, no two FinOps teams are the same. I'm sure they do things a lot better, a lot more effective than we do, and I'm sure we do some things better than they do. And so how can we merge those two teams and create a synergy that best benefits the organization as a whole?
Hi, so you mentioned the chatbot that provided wrong information about the cloud cost. So I wonder, what's your take on the future of that? Do you already work on the next iteration of it, or did you completely stop it until this hallucination is a problem no longer here?
So let me make sure I understand the question. So you're asking about how we understand the cloud or sorry, apologies.
I was referring directly to the chatbot that you said you open up for people to chat about their cloud cost.
Yes.
And it's providing wrong information. So I wonder, what's the future of that? If you're working on the next iteration of it, or completely stop it?
Great question. So we did provide the team that built that with the correct logic, so costs are accurately reflected. I just was emailing with a lead from one of our teams a little bit ago that's currently utilizing that AI assist and gave him the 3 columns he needs to add together to get the correct cost. So he can incorporate that into his AI assist until they have a chance to fix it on the back end. But they have it. It's just a matter of now layering it in.
Any other questions here? Oh, here we go.
Hi. This question on the unit economics that if I got it right, you said for Oracle, you're using a single unit for all types of services and not specific for each service. So what's the thought process there? Can you tell a little bit more?
Yeah, you're talking about universal credit, our model, our cloud commitment model?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just you sign up for a commitment with universal credits, and then those universal credits you can use for any cloud service in OCI. You need database, compute, storage. You don't need to do any type of, reservations or anything like that. It's flexible. It allows flexibility so you can move, service to service, and it comes out of the same commitment amount bucket.
So do you see that thought process disrupting how the other cloud providers are?
Ours is a lot less complex, so I don't know, maybe.
Thank you.
It makes managing it a lot easier.
Hi, I have a question regarding the cost attribution model. Was interested to learn what is the level of maturity of your cost attribution model, and what are the kind of the challenges when you were implementing this model, and how did you solve it?
Absolutely, great question, great question. So we attribute costs based off of multiple factors. We're looking at the account, project, subscription, tenancy, depending on the cloud. Coupled with, in some cases, we have shared accounts, so we're allocating costs based off of tag values as well. In some cases, multiple tag values. Where we run into an issue for cost allocation is when our chargeback methodology is set to a specific individual who leaves the organization, and whether or not those resources are properly updated, or they start using a new tag value because that individual's gone, and so now it's going to the incorrect team. So there's some challenges there, of course, but because we're reviewing the spend with the teams on a regular basis, we're able to identify it quite quickly.
Any other questions? No? Well, you guys were a tremendous audience with questions. Oh, one more? There we go.
We left them plenty of time for questions. You're welcome.
Janel, you said you're about to integrate with another FinOps team. As you come together, how are you thinking about setting that culture of practices and standards and serving the different lines of business that you integrate up to like a larger cloud, so that you get to lift from a really positive foundation on both places, rather than have that? Integrations are hard. They always drive some level of fear.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. And I think the answer to that is TBD. The conversations at the highest levels are just now occurring between Paramount and Warner Brothers. As additional information comes down and additional introductions across the teams happen, I'm sure we'll have conversations in those regards. We have already started having some sidebar conversations about leveraging the combined scale and what that looks like and how we can leverage that for financial advantage. But we're still in such early stages, TBD. Thank you. That's what tequila's for.
Thank you all. Let's give a big round of applause for Cody and Janel.
Hey everyone, producer Andrew here. Thanks for watching. Check out the rest of our channel for more FinOps content. Like, subscribe, and leave questions and comments for our speakers. We appreciate your support.